to the Panic Button. I'm Nina.
I'm Jessie.
And today, first hit that like button and subscribe button and hit the bell so you get a notification anytime we post a new video. Today we're reacting to a man on trigonometry. He's a journalist, and he talks about the left and cults. How they're similar in more ways than one.
That actually, as a documentary maker, you were really fearless and you were prepared to tackle some subjects which a vast majority of people simply won't want to go near, particularly the subject of paedophilia.
I guess I was also just so desperate to make it at this point, so I was always like, okay, what's the stuff that maybe Louis Theroux wouldn't touch? I moved to Germany, and while I was there, it's like, okay, what's the thing that I can do that no one else wants to touch? Okay, Nazis, neo-Nazis, and there's communists there, and all these things. Okay, I'm looking at those. And then I realized there were adverts on the metro for something called Kein Täter werden, which means don't offend. So I looked it up, and they say they were the world's only therapy for non-offending paedophiles who want to get help, who will never report them to authorities, because an American doctor would have to report them and an Australian one, or they could actually face prison. I emailed the Don't Offend clinic people and said, can I get in touch with any of the patients? The clinician said, what I can do is give your email address out. I waited a few weeks, and then I get an email from someone who calls himself Max. And he says, hi, Andrew, I heard about what you're doing. I can only meet today. This is where I'm going to be. So I go and meet him. But just before going to meet him, I put the address into Google Maps, and it's a public swimming pool. And I'm like, what the hell? Cycle down to meet him, get into this public swimming pool, and I find, who he is. And he does look like what you'd, it's the stereotype chubby guy. He's got Speedo, he's got a t-shirt over, covering it almost. And he was with a little girl, and that shocked me. So I said, oh, hi, Max. And he's like, oh, hello. And she just goes off to play. And I said, who's the little girl? And he said, I'm babysitting her. And I'm pushing him, going, you can't be babysitting him. What do you mean? And he goes, no, the mum knows about my condition. So that led me to go and meet the mum. And she was like super lefty. It's the reason that a lot of people on the right adopt paedophilia as one of their key issues. It's because the far left, their ideologies lead to that space. If you really push this idea of everyone is oppressed and whatever, it can go there.
All behavior is a product of oppression.
That's it. We've got ample evidence of it over the years. So we've seen it firstly with Kincora Boys Home in Ireland, where the Green Party in Ireland were involved in allowing the Royal Mountbatten to just go and do what he wanted with the children there. And we've seen it in Berlin, where we have something called the Kentler experiment that took place in the 80s. It was also the Green Party, far left, who noticed there was a problem where they had too many homeless boys and too many paedophile men that they didn't know what to do with. And so they placed the homeless boys with the paedophiles in foster care with paedophiles, because that was a solution to, two birds with one stone. New York Times, I think, covered it, or one of the New Yorker covered it. It's all out there, but those kids who were raised in those homes are so messed up by it that they can hardly speak now.
So
Why do you think that the left automatically goes to the defense of...
If you believe that everyone's been oppressed, and you believe that they're this way due to oppression, and so you must want to help them, which is why the mother was so willing to let someone who was having those types of thoughts watch her young child, because she believed that through some oppression is why this man is like this. If she allows him to express himself with children, crazy. This is crazy. But then she can help him. But that's not true. You're just putting your children at risk. It's that kind of left-minded behavior. Progressive as in changing. You can change someone who's a pedophile. You cannot. If they don't offend, good for them, but it doesn't change who they are.
I was going to say that the left can be so empathetic that it becomes a detriment to their own cause.
But if you believe everyone's a victim, then you believe that they need help, don't you?
Someone who's in prison for murder, for no good reason other than narcissism, a person from the left would find something about that offender that is oppressed, which would make them a part of their group, because, then they would defend the oppressed person, which would be the offender.
There is no offender in their world. There's
just
only
the
people
oppressed.
Who have been oppressed. There's no oppressor.
But then if they're looking at everyone who's an offender as someone who's oppressed...
Well, sorry, straight white men. They're oppressors. White men.
So everyone else who isn't a cis, straight, white man is oppressed, in which case, no matter what they do, no matter how horrific it is, it can be defended based on the fact that they are oppressed.
That's the world we live in.
That's a very dangerous world to live in.
Your level of oppression is like your get out of jail free card.
That's when the world becomes a more dangerous place.
You meet this mother who's a far lefty, and what happens from there?
She tells me it's all fine. She does this like weekly meetup with these guys who are minor attracted persons, as she calls them, who don't offend. She actually lets 3 of her kids get babysat by this guy, Max. And I said to her, you might have this experiment and this idealistic idea, but you put yourself in danger then. Don't put your kids in danger. That was pretty much the last I saw of her. She didn't want to speak to me again after that.
Now, what's your opinion, what's your opinion on mothers that have such a high degree of empathy to where they put their children in danger to help the oppressed? What's your opinion on women like that? Where does that come from?
It shows that she cares more about how the world views her than how she views her children or herself. She doesn't have the kids for the purpose of having children. She has them as a view, like a vantage point. Oh, she looks like a good mom. Oh, she's doing things like this. Even if she is a good mother, it shows that her focus is in the wrong field if she's putting her children in this situation. Does that make sense?
Yes. I wonder if she had those children for the reason she's using them for.
No.
No, she just had the kids, found her cause, and then decided to use her children to further her cause, to make herself look good?
Yeah.
What kind of mind is that? Like, how could you be a woman, have children born from your body,
Narcissist?
and then hand them over to those people and have this blind faith that they won't do anything horrible to them because you believe in your cause and you believe in their victimhood so much? I can't comprehend that kind of female brain. That's just it just boggles my mind. Like, the reason why I don't have kids is because I would probably I would defend them through and through. That's why I won't have kids, because in this world today, the amount of protection I would need to have for my children would lead me to eventually be in prison. That's one main reason why I never wanted to have kids and why I never will have children. But the women who do have kids and pretend to have a nurturing bone in their body and yet just hand them over to people who will abuse them, I can't understand that.
Max continued babysitting her children for some time. The links between a Scientology cult and the way Scientologists feel and the way Jonestown and Heaven's Gate were and some of the political ideologies, it's the same thing. I've got a good friend now who's an ex-Scientologist called Aaron Smith-Levin, and he says, when I was in it, there is nothing you could have said to me that would have made me not believe in Scientology. I mean, Heaven's Gate, they believed that they were going to go to an alien.
That's what makes me really concerned for people who really believe in this gender ideology, is that you can present to them absolute facts and they will reject it because their beliefs are so cemented into who they are that they couldn't possibly accept any sort of truth or fact, because it would completely destroy their belief system. It's very much like a religion, like a cult, because it is very blind faith. In this world, we need evidence. But in the gender ideology world, there is no evidence. So when it comes to gender ideology taking over law and order, it's a very dangerous world to live in, because now it has nothing to do with evidence. Now it's just based on everyone's feelings. If we have to go based on feelings and not evidence, it becomes a very, very dangerous world, especially for women.
I feel like it'd be super easy to start a cult nowadays.
Absolutely.
It seems like there's more of them.
Absolutely.
And people are so based in strictly feelings and not evidence.
Feelings,
that you don't have
AKA faith.
That you don't have to provide evidence. You just have to provide them with feelings. Like they need to feel like they belong there. And that's more than enough. And it's crazy to me that you can feel so intensely about something, you let your children in harm's way.
Yeah.
But like, it makes me question how much you care about your children and how much you care about your own looks to the community.
It's almost like there's two different people in this world. There's three. There's people like us, okay? And then there's the other two. There's the ones that have blind faith in humanity and the goodness of humanity. People who have probably never suffered a day in their life and got everything they wanted, which is a lot of people, surprisingly. And then we have the predators who are manipulative and use the weaknesses of good people in order to get what they want. So we have these three people. We're yelling about it, and both factions are trying to tear us down.
Yes.
And then we have the faction of blind faith. Everyone is good. Nobody will tell a lie. And then we have the people who will take advantage of those people. And it's crazy to see the blind faith people completely accept these evil people and just not even consider for a fact that maybe they would be lying.
Welcome to the world.
Planet, they all themselves. That's how far people can go. So yeah, the idea that this woman could let her own kids be taken out by a guy she knows is a paedophile babysitter, that's how far ideology is.
And what was her rationale? Because that's the other thing I'm curious about, because I might think, for example, that some...
You know what it reminds me of? Have you ever seen a documentary on Jonestown? At the end of the cult, I should say, he had everyone drink the Kool-Aid, which was poison, which killed them. I'm sure women and mothers think that they would never get to a point where they would actually feed poison to their children. But these women thought that they were actually doing a good thing and that they were sending their children to heaven.
That Lori Daybell chick we were just talking about, she thought her kids were literally like fucked with, so that's why she killed them.
Right. And what's the most maddening part about this is that women will see that and be like, oh, I would never do that to my children at the same time.
But let
They're just
them be
feeding
watched
them
by a
over to the
pedophile?
MAPS, minor attracted persons, just handing them over. And it's like, how are you so oblivious to the fact that what you're saying and what you're doing are like two entirely different things? If I were to have to blame one group of people in this whole mess, I have to blame women. I have to blame women. Either they're too complacent or they're too empathetic.
To a detriment, yeah.
To a detriment. There's a small faction of us that are speaking out, but the rest of them are, I want nothing to do with this. The other ones are like, here, have my children, have my rights, because I'm so empathetic and I feel so bad for you. And the other ones are like,
It's crazy because I think
I'm not going to say anything because I don't want trouble.
I think of it more like that one documentary I watched on YouTube. Moms are just like, oh, you'll give me $10K for my baby? Have it. I think of it more like that, where they will sell themselves for money or looks or whatever it takes to look good and feel like they made a change.
Yeah, it seems that the worst mothers in the world are the most oblivious to their actions.
Somebody is absolutely an ex-smoker, but I wouldn't let them deliberately babysit packs of cigarettes. What is the rationale? Why did she do this?
I said to her, it's like an alcoholic behind a bar. She says because it means a lot to her, it's her life's work. So that's the ideological side. It's that very, very dangerous thing of feeling good about yourself. And now she has a huge group.
So the mother is saying, I am giving my children to this known pedophile because it means a lot to me and it's my life's work. This is what I heard. I'm sorry, but if you have children and they are not the meaning for your life and your life's work and something else is, they need to be completely taken away from you because I think they're better off in foster care at this point than with you because you're handing them over to known offenders.
They haven't offended yet.
What?
The whole scheme of what she's doing are pedophiles who haven't offended.
He said some of them. He didn't mean all of them.
I thought that he said all of them were not offenders.
No.
Yeah, you see,
No,
that's
no.
even worse. It sounds like if you haven't offended but you want a chance at offending, you could sign up to go and hang out with your kids.
Even if it was guys who want to have sex with children but haven't yet.
That's what I'm saying. It sounds like a sign-up sheet to try and fuck her kids.
Yeah, it sounds like something very, very evil. Even if they didn't offend it, I don't give a shit. If someone wants to drink alcohol and you put like a bottle of liquor in front of them and you walk away, what percentage do you think they're not going to drink?
I think of it more more like an alcoholic going to a bar and ordering a scotch, but they're not going to drink it. They just ordered it.
Dude, does this mother not understand what addiction is? What a sickness is?
I don't know who this person is, but they need help.
Like, it's such a psychotic religion. Dare I say it might be more crazy than some far-right Christians?
Absolutely.
Possibly. But at the same
Absolutely.
time, maybe it's the same thing. Because those people also do turn a blind eye to their children and when they say that they've been abused. I've seen that multiple times.
I just don't think it's the same thing because I still don't see a Christian parent putting their kid around.
That's how I know Christians aren't as bad.
Group of people who no one else will speak to them except her. So she goes from being like Mrs. Boring, because she is, just boring, plain person, to superhero among those people. It's like cults, right? So one of the first parts of being in a cult is you get love bombed. People start love bombing you. People telling her how wonderful. She's never heard that before. What an amazing feeling. That's what Scientology does. That's what all of the cults do. And that's what's happened, unfortunately, to her. She's being told, wonderful, wonderful. You're thinking about things in a way that no one else is. How wonderful you are. And so those guys going, hey, you know what I'd really love? Like, no one would ever trust me with their kids. You believe us that we'd never offend.
Why is he babysitting kids, though?
Why a swimming pool?
Why anywhere? It is not a common thing for a man to want to babysit someone else's children. I mean, someone else's children, generally speaking, are quite annoying. The fact that this is a guy that wants to do that and happens to be a non-offending pedophile, it's a little bit sus.
So like you said, they're non-offending, but they want to.
That's why. That's what I'm saying.
Now,
It's like
you also
signing
have
up.
to, right, but you also have to take this into consideration as well. Just because the man said that he didn't offend doesn't mean that he didn't offend. You also have to take that in consideration. Just because he didn't get
what
caught
I'm
and he's not
saying.
admitting to it doesn't mean he didn't do it and he's not actually an offender. That's also something you have to take into consideration. Do you think that I'm going to
That's what I
believe
was
if a
saying.
pedophile says he hasn't offended that I'm actually going to believe him? Absolutely fucking not. You know who would? A crazy leftist like this woman.
That's why I said it's like signing up to see who's gonna rape your kid next.
Exactly. In which case, this woman is a sick individual who is beyond humane.
Yes.
Spoke to an 18-year-old who has this, a boy who was a school president, but we spoke just via Skype. I didn't meet him in real life. And he kept saying the same thing. And he said, I do all these clubs and after-school activities where I look after the kids. So everyone thinks he's wonderful and amazing. He looks after the kids. He said to me this really weird thing. And he said, Andrew, you need to understand, if I weren't able to do that, I would be more likely to offend because it's so important to me that I can be around kids. And I love it so much that it would screw me up so much not being around them. And I said, but you know that doesn't make sense because if you weren't near the kids, you couldn't physically do it. And he was going, no, you don't get it. So those are the cognitive biases that you need to disabuse these people of.
But the thing that I found really
So a guy like that, do you really believe he never offended?
No, I'm saying that he is making excuses to make it more likely that he can offend.
If you've convinced other people that you haven't offended, and the reason you haven't offended is because you're around children, then you get away with being around children more.
Which gives you more opportunity to be alone
Yes,
with children.
that doesn't mean that he's telling the truth about not ever offending, because we all know that pedophiles are the bright light of honesty and truth, right? Well, according to the left, the gender ideologists, these weak people who just bow down to anyone they view as oppressed, these people are evil. They're evil because they will literally hand over their children to non-offenders so they can get the accolades. It's absolutely abhorrent.
Disgusting.
It's treacherous. It's evil. If I were to have ever believed in the devil, that woman and her little demons would be it. And her children are the fucking fodder. It's sad.
Abuse these people of.
But the thing that I found really interesting about you talking to that 18-year-old, because he was saying, unless I'm around kids, then I'm the real victim here. And that, to me, sums up a lot of what we're talking about. It's this desire for victimhood status, whereby if I can't be put in a position where I'm a direct threat to children, then I'm a victim.
Right, and the desire for victimhood.
Victimhood is
Right.
currency these days.
So let's say the guy who likes kids but hasn't touched them, he's a victim, right?
Why?
Because he's not a large majority of the population.
That doesn't
He's
make
a very
him a victim. Makes him a minority.
Right. They know how to manipulate people on the left. All they have to do is convince them that they're a victim. And they will feel bad enough for them that they will give them things that they normally wouldn't get.
Undeserved accolades.
This guy is saying, if I can't be around the things that I'm addicted to, kids, then I'm the victim. That's a very manipulative tactic.
Yep.
A mental manipulative tactic. Now, if people go through their lives and they haven't had to suffer, they haven't gotten fucked over by people, they've gotten everything handed to them. If those are the people that are trying to like rule the world, then we are going to all burn. There's going to be a fucking World War III because these kind of people can't see the forest beyond the trees. They can't see the evil that lies within the smile. They can't see that shit because they haven't gone through it. So they just believe blindly that everyone's good. If we have people like this ruling the world, we're done. I've always said this and I always will. There will be a time when the children of these evil leftist people handing their children over
They're gonna get mad.
to strangers, they're going to get homicidal.
Mad.
They're going to try to get even. They're going to try to get their payback for never really being heard, for feeling like as a child they should have been protected and they weren't at all. And they're going to go after the people who never protected them who should have. People who should have protected them, but instead were trying to protect their own ego.
You think people have mommy and daddy issues now? Just you wait.
Just wait. It's only a matter of time before these kids who got fed to the wolves come back to mom and dad's house and decide to take action.
Victim. And you go, how insane is that logic and that way of thinking?
And
And
yeah.
that people would agree to that.
He hoodwinked, himself firstly, and he hoodwinked this woman who now runs a whole therapy class for a bunch of them. And this is just a woman who happens to be quite left-wing and who believes that this is another minority victim who needs help in that respect.
Anyway, that was insane, but that is the reality of what is going on. The left have lost lost their minds, just like the followers of Jim Jones and David Koresh.
Hide your kids. Hide your wife. Hide anything, because they're coming. This stuff is becoming more socially acceptable, and it should never have been. It should never be. Speak, because the only way people can keep doing this is when people keep congratulating her instead of saying, you really let your kids hang out with pedophiles? Your thoughts?
What are your
I'm pretty
thoughts?
Sure you know.
What are your
We know what you're
concerns?
thinking.
What did you notice about this video that maybe we didn't catch on?
What would you do if you found out that your kid was being babysat by a
And-
non-offender?
And what do you think would make a woman do that? I'm really curious for your opinions.
We have new membership tiers. Check those out. We'll give you shout outs and we'll follow you on social media for some. They're not expensive by any means. You get early access to videos. And we're broke, so hit us up because I'd like to quit my day job.